Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Federal Bank Primetime Studios. First up, ladies and gentlemen, the big story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared a news clipping citing 7 years since the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax or GST. The Prime Minister also emphasized the implementation of GST has led to increased savings for the poor and common man. He also noted that GST has lowered taxes on essential household items such as flour, curd and detergent, making daily necessities more affordable. Both PM Modi and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman have vowed to make compliance far more easier in the coming days. A report, meanwhile, on Bharat's manufacturing hub for electronics components and sub-assemblies by the CII has projected an increase in demand for electronic components and sub-assemblies in India by 2030. And as per the report, the demand for components and sub-assemblies in 2023 stood at $45.5 billion to support the electronics production worth $102 billion, which is expected to scale up to $240 billion by 2030 to support electronics production worth $500 billion now. Meanwhile, recalling his meeting with External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar during his recent visit to the island nation, Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and S. Jaishankar for their support to Sri Lanka. Several houses under the Indian Housing Project in Kandy, Nuwara and Matale, benefiting the Indian origin Tamil community, have been inaugurated. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, Parliament is on the 18th Lok Sabha, first session of Parliament on a day when the MPs were being sworn in. Both sides talked about the Constitution. Both sides reminded each other about the fact that you are going to change, alter or amend the Constitution. Is there a difference, ladies and gentlemen, between amending it, altering it, changing the Constitution altogether? More importantly, is it for Bharat or for their own personal interests? That's the other question. Who's done it more? Whose intent is it? This entire Samvidhan badal denge bogi? Who's actually guilty? Let's debate.
पच्चीस जून को भारत के लोकतंत्र में जो काला धब्बा लगा था, उसके 50 वर्ष हो रहे हैं। भारत की नई पीढ़ी इस बात को कभी नहीं भूलेगी कि भारत के संविधान को पूरी तरह नकार दिया गया था। लोग सब्सटेंस चाहते हैं, स्लोगन नहीं चाहते।
जो आक्रमण प्रधानमंत्री जी अमित शाह जी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पर, संविधान पे कर रहे हैं, वो हमारे लिए एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है, वो हम होने नहीं देंगे।
Without declaring emergency, you are doing it.
जो जनता से जुड़े हुए विषय जरूर उठाने चाहिए, बट जो भ्रमित करने वाली बातें, जैसे चुनाव में भी जिस तरीके से विपक्ष ने संविधान आरक्षण को लेकर मुद्दा बनाने का प्रयास किया, ये गलत है।
Did Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ever go 400 par, ladies and gentlemen? But how many times under his government, when he was 3 times Prime Minister, was the Constitution changed, amended, altered? Each have a different meaning. 16 times. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, did she ever go 400 par, ladies and gentlemen? 31 times the Constitution had been changed. Even the preamble under her had been altered, ladies and gentlemen. The whole DNA of our Constitution was altered under her rule. 11 times under Rajiv Gandhi, he went 400 par once. But 11 times under him too, the Constitution was amended, altered, changed. 6 times during the UPA under Manmohan Singh, Sonia Gandhi, Constitution altered, amended, changed. Open to interpretation, subject to interpretation. But what is the constitution that Mr. Rahul Gandhi was carrying today along with the opposition? Does it even reflect and look anywhere close to how our founding fathers had envisaged this? This is how our founding fathers wrote the constitution, ladies and gentlemen. This is how the pictures of our constitution is. This is how it's supposed to be. This is the original preamble of the Constitution of India. Do you see the word secular and socialist? No. You see us as a sovereign democratic republic. So who altered it? Who changed the DNA of the Constitution? It happened during the time of the emergency. Who called the emergency on the 25th of June in 1975? So these are questions that have to be answered. And those very people are blaming who of changing the Constitution? This is how our Constitution looked. There were pictures, beautifully written, flowing calligraphy. Each page, representation of our culture. From Ram to Krishna to Hanuman to Buddha to Akbar. Everybody was represented here. Where did those pictures go? Who altered that? Who did away with that, ladies and gentlemen? There was no BJP at that time. There was no Narendra Modi at that time. So who are these people who are standing there and saying कि ये लोग संविधान बदल देंगे? Can they actually claim that? Or are they just trying to brazenly commit an act of revisionism to make people forget what this Samvidhan actually means, who actually changed this Samvidhan, and gloss over the fact that out of the 106 times that the Samvidhan has been changed, altered, amended till date, ladies and gentlemen, nearly 90 odd times had been done even before 2014. So who are these people who are pushing this continuously? Samvidhan badal denge bogi. And on what grounds? What was Samvidhan? What was changed? What was altered? What was amended in the interest? And who has always done it for Bharat, the greater cause for Bharat? The Constitution has to evolve. The Constitution has to change, ladies and gentlemen. Because our nation is also evolving. Our nation is progressing. The Constitution has to cater to the needs of a changing, evolving, growing Bharat. Yes. But should we alter the DNA of the Constitution itself? Those who altered the DNA, sanctified it, ratified it, and today try to corrupt it and revise it in that act of revisionism, can they actually claim to be holier than thou? That's the question when this entire debate has been triggered by the Prime Minister reminding us 25th of June, the year of emergency, and the opposition walking with the Constitution in their hand. But when they were in power, what did they do? Did they cover themselves in glory? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at this history. First Constitutional Amendment Bill in 1951 was introduced by then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in the Lok Sabha. The amendment curtailed the freedom of speech and expression, a fundamental right under Article 19.1A. The bill added reasonable before restrictions and included public order, friendly relations with foreign states, security of the state, and incitement to an offence as new restrictions. It also took away the power of the federal states to object to a central resolution. That was done by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Article 35A stems from Article 370, which was introduced via presidential order in 1954. It, however, does not appear in the main body of the Constitution, but in Appendix 1. The Nehru government did not present it to Parliament for discussion. Remember, Article 35A granted special rights to Jammu and Kashmir's permanent residents and prohibited outsiders from buying property, settling permanently, or accessing the state scholarships in Jammu and Kashmir. It also denied, since 1957, all the Valmikis, the Safai Karamcharis who stayed there, their children studied hard. They became IAS, they cleared IAS exams, UPSC exams, they got into IITs, they became scientists, engineers, doctors, etc. But when they were in Jammu and Kashmir, they could only be employed as Safai Karamchari. This was done to our Constitution. 25th of June 1975, Indira Gandhi claimed a national emergency that's been termed the darkest day of Indian democracy. During this, the opposition leaders were arrested, elections postponed, anti-government protests were crushed, and press censored. Some laws were even rewritten to suit the government, and when the act of ratifying, changing, altering the preamble, it was passed in Parliament, the entire opposition in the upper house was in jail, ladies and gentlemen. President rule and state government dismissals. Article 356 allows president rule if a state government can't be run per constitutional provisions. Congress governments have used Article 356 about 90 times, 90, in the last 70 odd years to dismiss state governments. The 16 states that ratified the changing of the preamble in 1975, all of them Congress ruled states. Shahbano Judgment 1985, landmark India's constitutional history. 23rd April 1985, Supreme Court ordered Shahbano's ex-husband to pay maintenance under Section 125 of CRPC. Rajiv Gandhi-led Congress government passed the Muslim Women's Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986, nullifying the Supreme Court's order, countermanding the Supreme Court and taking away the basic rights of 50% of this nation's population, women. Rights of Muslim women taken away, women's rights taken away if they were in a divorce case with a man. The right to alimony taken away. And they were the ones going out and saying, "Inko 400 par aa gaya to Samvidhan badal denge." That's the lot, that's the party, and that's led by that group that sat there and ratified it back in history, coming out and saying, "Abhi to we have not even called an emergency, it's an uncalled emergency." Sardar R.P. Singh, national spokesperson of the BJP, Sanjay Jha, political analyst, Nilafur Masood, national conference with us, Ishkaran Bhandari, advocate with us. This whole Samvidhan bogi, Sardar R.P. Singh, why is it that you are not able to counter it? Why is it that the opposition continues to look at you and say, "Arey, ye power mein aaya, ye Samvidhan badalne wale hain. Ye sarkar mein Samvidhan badalne wale hain." किस लिए संविधान बदलने वाले हैं?
आनंद, हिंदी में कहावत है, काट की हांडी एक बार चढ़ती बार बार नहीं चढ़ती. They were successful. They were able to build up that narrative in this election. They are not going to. They won't be able to do it again. And in coming future, they'll be more exposed when they do this. What was today opposition doing, especially led by Rahul Gandhi, carrying a copy of a abridged copy of a constitution and then saying that, "Oh, Samvidhan khatre mein hai." Now you just now told how many times the constitution has been changed and who, under whose period the constitution was under threat. I'm very hopeful that tomorrow you are showing the right copy of the constitution. Tomorrow, this copy of the constitution, the Rahul Gandhi and the leaders of the opposition will also carry, and also remind people of 25th June 1975 and 3rd January 1977, when finally the constitution was amended and even the preamble, the basic preamble of the constitution was altered. Although there was no need, but yes, they did it. And they are the people who are always gone against the will of the constitution. When they sack the government in the states 90 times, more than 90 times they have sacked the government in the opposition states, they are going against the basic will of the constitution. But that's how the Congress is. I mean, they try to create a bogey. We accept they were successful in creating that bogey. But again, I reiterate, काट की हांडी एक बार चढ़ती है, दोबारा नहीं चढ़ेगी.
पर वो काट की हांडी चढ़नी नहीं चाहिए थी ना सर. That's where you are at fault. You are at fault because you amended the constitution in the interest you abrogated 370. Is that a fault? Are you guilty of doing the right thing?
Now,
or are you unable to go back and tell them
370.
what you did? Are you unable to go back and convince the people of your actions? Did you actually need to be 400 par, 2/3 bahumat to change the constitution altogether? If you really wanted to.
No one need to be 400 par. No one need to be 400 par, and no one can change the constitution, the basic ethos of the constitution of the country. Prime Minister rightly said even Bhimrao Ambedkar ji also wants to change the constitution, the basic ethos of the constitution. They can't change it now after the ratification which was done in 1977 in the parliament. So it's not possible. But the fact is, yes, they are still into that mode of election mode, and then he's still trying to continue that. Wait for the time they'll be more exposed. As I said, earlier they used to do jantar mantar in the parliament by standing on the desk, by throwing the pamphlet or by throwing the bills at the face of the chairperson or the speaker of the parliament. Now they are trying to bring Shri Ram theatre to the parliament. I mean, they are trying to do theatric, which doesn't hold. I mean, parliament is there for a serious issue, subjects, debate, and when it comes to serious issues and subjects in debate, they walk out. They create ruckus. We'll appreciate, as the opposition, I'll appreciate and request to them also that please use this opportunity to pick up issues, to corner the government, to seek answers from the government on subjects which are of the people interest, not trying to build up a false bogey and try to build up your narrative around that.
Sanjay Jha, what is this whole Samvidhan Badal Denge thing all about? Why is the opposition saying the government with 293 NDA coalition is going to change the constitution? What are they going to do? What is this bogey?
Okay, Anand, in the interest of a fair debate, I would not appreciate any interruption because you spoke for literally 10 minutes in defense of the government, which I think is unprecedented and also tells me why Mr. Modi's government is extremely nervous and needs the big media to back them, which unfortunately will boomerang as the results of the elections establish. Now, here are some key core points that I wish to make. Point number one, you talked about the founding fathers. The founding fathers include Dr. Ambedkar and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And we all know how the BJP's policies have really affected the Dalits in the country, who have voted against them in the 2024 elections, which proves that they have been insulting the founding fathers. As far as Pandit Nehru is concerned, and there are many others, by the way, who are part of the entire constitutional construction in our country, we all know how Mr. Modi personally mocks Pandit Nehru whenever he wishes to. So when we talk founding fathers, let's ask the BJP, where were your contributions during India's freedom struggle? And I'll tell you what is the reality of that current problem. Because they have nothing to do with the birth of this great nation. They have no struggle, sweat, blood, toil and tears to make India an independent nation against the British, whom, by the way, they supported. They are not able to comprehend the whole quintessential beauty of India's constitution. Point number one. Point number two, and very quickly, this party does not respect the Indian constitution. And this is the truth. Why have we seen India's rankings, not just worldwide, but within the country? People are scared of expressing what they feel. The freedom of expression, the attacks on NGOs, think tanks, authors, intellectuals, film industry, opposition parties, the destruction of institutions, the use of the washing machine to terrorize people, the complete criminality in electoral bonds. They establish a political party that is at core authoritarian and, in my opinion, has become hardcore fascist. Point number three, and then I'll wrap up. What India is seeing, Anand, is 120 months of unofficial, undeclared emergency. To the credit of Mrs. Gandhi, although she lost the elections, I think deservedly, didn't deserve to win the election after the emergency. We say so publicly ourselves. At least it was officially declared and lasted 21 months. What India is seeing is a stealthy, surreptitious, sneaky form of dictatorship. And everyone who is in the opposition knows it. Two panelists on your program who will support the government will obviously not agree with me. And therefore, my last point. This is a government, Anand, you know it, let's not even try and pretend, where you have senior leaders, not the fringe, who say drop secularism, drop socialism, because according to them, that is not part of India's DNA. I'll tell you why that is a problem with the BJP. BJP sees the word republic, my last line. BJP sees the word republic in a preamble as probably just a TV channel.
Well, now, since you made certain allegations against me, I do not, and I disagree with you that I was batting for anyone. I was stating hard facts, sir. I was stating facts that how things happened. I have a copy of the original constitution which I showed to the viewer. The preamble of the original constitution, after the discussions in the Constituent Assembly debates, rejected the words socialist and secular and said no. And nobody but Babasaheb Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar rejected the word socialist, secular. And he said no. Bharat has been broken, has been torn in the name of religion, where Muslims rejected staying with Hindus and said we cannot live with Hindus, and that's exactly what Jinnah said when he demanded partition. And because this country was torn on the grounds of religion, there was nothing secular in the formation of Bharat and Pakistan. The other aspect, sir, the Prime Minister of our country, the first Prime Minister was a Pandit. The first education minister is a Maulana. So basically, secular should get tossed out of the window because we are not secular even in our government formation in the choice of our leaders. because we had a Pandit and a Maulana as part of government. Please, sir. So the other thing is, I'm not batting for anybody, I'm stating facts. Those who claim Samvidhan will be altered and talk about founding fathers, sir, Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar was against Article 370. Nehru circumvented him, bypassed him, got Gopal Swami Iyengar to draft the Jammu and Kashmir constitution, which was not even ratified by Parliament, sir. It was an agreement which was between Jawaharlal Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah, which was not ratified by Parliament. Did not have the sanction of Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. This is fact. I am not batting for anybody. So who altered the DNA of Bharat in 1977 when the country was in emergency and nation was in opposition was in jail, sir? It was Indira Gandhi who did it. Why alter the preamble when the founding fathers had rejected the word socialist and secular? Is a question that the Congress party still has not been able to answer. Those who say we should revert to the original constitution are actually going back to what Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar himself wrote in his own book. He has himself mentioned this, and these are arguments which are chronicled in the archives of the Constituent Assembly debates, and you can also peruse them. But
can I respond to you quickly?
Ji.
Yeah. Anand, let me tell you, the people of India have spoken. So let me just tell you this. For any panelist, including you, there is no need to froth at the mouth. The people of India were
nobody's frothing at the mouth, Sanjay
that
Jaji.
India's
but
constitution
if you are peddling,
Can I finish?
If you are making
Can I finish?
I am going to
Can I
respectfully
finish?
say, please do not be economical with the truth. And
No,
I am
so let
only
me
stating
finish.
facts.
You hold the platform. I'm your guest. Let me finish.
Please.
Here is my point.
No, but when
Here
you
is
make
my
a
point.
personal insinuation at me, I have the right to defend myself, and I'm defending
No,
myself
no.
with facts, sir. Now you're shifting the
You can
goalposts.
do-
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, you can do that, Anand. But as a guest and as somebody who's
Please,
not
I didn't interrupt you.
responsible with
I
his
didn't interrupt you
comments-
then. I had to
Yeah.
clarify now.
Yeah.
That's why I did. Please complete.
Yeah. So here is the truth, Anand. The truth is that you have a political party that has stifled dissent. Okay, let's look at just that one element. All right? Will you deny the targeting of the opposition when 95% of the cases were against them? Will you deny that the hounding of the chief ministers who were in jail during the time of the election was democracy and respect for the constitution? Will you deny that the prime minister of this country mocked and attacked Muslims brazenly during the election campaign? You have the audacity and the temerity to come on this program just because you're an anchor and say that Mr. Modi is not above being questioned. India's prime minister
I never
was
said that.
attacking Muslims.
Don't put words
So
in my
India's-
mouth. Don't put
Yeah.
words in
So
my
here is-
mouth. Don't
so
put
here is
words
my
in my
point.
mouth. Secondly, sir,
So here-
please do not make insinuations and try and add agenda where there is none. Thirdly, sir,
So exactly.
the Shah Bano amendment was a brazen slap on the face of Muslim women that was done in 1985 by the Rajiv Gandhi government, which is again
You're continuing to defend them.
open brazen appeasement. I'm not defending anybody.
Let
This is what
RPC
happened. Let's not
argue. Why
forget.
you arguing?
And sir, you're talking about controlling freedom, controlling rights and restriction. In Delhi, the government's attempt to censor the organizer and RSS newspaper had been countermanded by the courts of the country. In Bombay, government's order banning Crossroads, a left-leaning weekly critical of Nehru and the Congress government, had been quashed again by the courts. By early 1951, with elections looming in the near future, Nehru grew increasingly exasperated. It is impossible to hang up urgent social changes because the constitution comes in the way, he wrote to his ministers. We have to find a remedy, and even though this might involve a change in the constitution, again Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru saying a wider social policy had to be determined by the government and neither the courts nor the constitution should be allowed to stand in the way. This is what Tripudarman Singh writes in his book about Pandit Nehru, 16 Stormy Days, the story of the first amendment to the Constitution of India, and what the bill proposed, and after which the strongest voice to stand up against this entire move by the Congress party led by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, who was then affiliated with the Hindu Mahasabha. It had nothing to do with the Jansangh or the BJP then. The amendment he charged was cutting at the very root of the fundamental principles of the constitution. He called it the beginning of the encroachment of the liberty of free India. This is against Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and the
Anand-
person saying it is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. Sir, I am quoting
Anand-
history as it is being
Anand, I'll
chronicled,
tell
as
you-
it being
I'll tell you
written.
the
It's not a
problem.
figment of anybody's
I'll tell you the
imagination, nor
problem.
am I shifting anybody's goalpost.
Yeah.
Ishkaran
Yeah,
Bhandari
yeah.
and then
One
Nilufar Mat. Sanjay ji,
Yeah.
let me just go to the other two panelists and
I have to
I'll
make a
circle back
small
to you.
point, Anand,
Yeah.
before you move on.
You
No,
just
sir,
have
please.
to
I need to make a very small point.
Sir,
Sanjay
let
had
me
enough
please.
time.
Very
request-
small point.
Whatever you
Just one
said,
second.
let me
Not
I'm
10,
going to
even
request,
10.
humbly request Sardar RP Singh and Sanjay Jha to please yield. I will also stop. Sanjay Jha,
Just one
Ishkaran-
second,
No,
one
sir,
second.
please. Sir, Sir, please. I'm not allowing Sanjay Jaji also. Please hold your
Anand.
thoughts. Ishkaran Bhandari and then Nilofar Masood. Yeah.
Anand, firstly, I would start with this term founding fathers. We blindly ape US, which was settling untamed West. We are an ancient civilization. We had people who led the freedom movement. We had people who contributed to the freedom movement. But the founding fathers term, I think we should be a little bit more careful than just blindly aping Western terms. But anyways, coming to the subject at hand of changing of constitution. 100 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली. A Congress government which used to change constitution so frequently and so regularly that the Supreme Court had to evolve a basic structure doctrine that you cannot amend constitution beyond this point. The need came because they were using the constitution as basically a private journal. You can add 35A without introducing it into the floor of the house. You can change whatever you want by creating a 9th schedule. You can remove words from the constitution, amend it because you have super majorities. They were using constitution as a private journal. We are the first country which in a sense effectively evolved the basic structure doctrine to protect the constitution from Congress. That's a fact of history. Now let's come to the other aspect. They are the people who destroyed institutions to this manner with supersession of judges, with appointing anybody they wanted to as a judge, qualified or not, at a time that the judiciary had to evolve a collegium system to stop the ill effects of the institutional capture of judiciary. Please understand how the collegium came about at that time, which we discuss very frequently now. This was the Congress's documented factual history for the reason that these sort of things came into being. Now when we talk about change of constitution, you have already, it's a misnomer. What does the term even mean? Of course the constitution has to be amended. It has been amended 106 times. Is it a good amendment? Is it a bad amendment? That has to be discussed. Merely saying constitution ko amend kar rahe hain, that is fear mongering which has no substance to it. But of course it was effective. That's what the political party to decide. Why BJP's communication on that
That's
issue
exactly
failed, or
why I
Congress's
asked
communication
who
on that
amended
issue did
and who
better than
altered.
they expected. But on, yes, but I'll just finish, Anand, by saying this much. After you have amended constitution time in, time out, after you treated democracy, when the first communist government got elected in Kerala, you removed it by using your imposing president's rules, Article 356. So please don't preach about constitution when you have a very, very sorry history on how it is amended, and including, because we are talking about the great Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he specifically opposed the insertion of the word social and secular to the constitution. I think Mr. K.T. Shah or somebody raised it as an amendment and he specifically rejected it. It is only during the emergency, when to satisfy certain vote banks, these words were inserted, because Dr. Ambedkar's view was very clear that I will not tell future governments how the economy should function. That is for the elected leaders who have been elected at that time to decide that. So let us be very clear, who has amended the constitution, who has damaged the constitution, for whom the basic structure came to protect the constitution, against whom the collegium system came to protect the judiciary, and then deal with the facts as they are.
Sir, the word socialist, as many would argue, also limits, like you just said, what economic policy we as a nation need to follow given the change in times and given our evolution in the course as a growing nation. So you have actually altered the DNA of the nation by inserting these two words which are not core to its DNA. That's why the altering happened. And those people, those parties who actually ratified this kind of an alteration are today coming out and crying bogey at somebody else. That's the other question. Nilofar Masood, namaste and thank you for your time and your patience, ma'am. Your thoughts here. This whole thing about changing constitution.
Anand, I think we are the worst sufferers of tampering of the constitution. We, as a J&K, used to be a state. You know it that we are now UT. So we are the worst sufferers and the live example before the whole world, not only India. Now you're talking about the altering, who altered. One wrong cannot justify the another wrong. If somebody has done wrong in past, that never gives a license to anybody to do the same thing in some other way. That is to be chucked somewhere. So we cannot justify that Congress has done this thing, so that is why we are doing it. And if they have done it, so nobody can question it. First, we need to check it out. You know that Constitution, it is just not a book which gives us the introduction about the laws, rights and duties. It's in fact a visionary document which was given by the independent leaders of the then India, and we need to respect it anyway. And to upkeep the dignity of the Constitution, it has laid down so many provisions, and those provisions are to be respected. If we want to defeat somebody's right, laws, then it can be defeated by the very provisions of the Constitution only. That is to be seen.
So you
we
agree,
cannot say that.
So you agree that the Constitution was a well thought out doctrine? that on how a nation state should actually function?
Yes, it should function. That is why it was made, and
Correct.
it gives us
So then why did Jammu and Kashmir and Sheikh Abdullah refuse to follow the Indian constitution and insist on their own constitution and a separate constitution and insist on two constitutions in the same country, Nilofer Masoodji?
Anand, you have asked me a question. Let me answer it. We were the princely state, and when we decided that we should integrate with the India, then we made one document, and in that document certain rights limitations were given. And it was only because of those certain rights and limitation 370 came, 35A came.
No, ma'am.
We already told.
Again, ma'am, please don't revise history, ma'am. Because the accession document, the signing of accession document signed by all the riyasats, all the princely states was the same, ma'am. No, was the same, ma'am. They never had a 35A, nor did they have a separate constitution, and 35A was not even mentioned in the actual constitution. Even the abridged one, which was peddled by the Congress party post 1977. Ma'am, the Supreme Court, former Supreme Court Chief Justice is on record in 2010 that when he perused the constitution that was available for him in the Supreme Court of India, there was no 35A. So they said, where is 35A? That's when they went back to the archives, and then they realized, oh my God, it's part of the appendix. And it's there as the this one.
Anand, you cannot justify those things what have been said. I don't want to go into that.
No, that is what you just now said, that Bharat's constitution was a well thought out doctrine and it should be respected. But then Sheikh Abdullah and the National Conference refused to respect it. They said they insisted because they were the only riyasat and the only state that were accorded that they will be part of India, but they will have a separate constitution. How is that fair?
This is how our rights were protected.
How was that? How were their rights protected, Nilofer Masoodji? If you had chosen to marry a person before 2014, ma'am, if you had chosen to marry before the Supreme Court overturned certain provisions of 35A, Muslim women or any Kashmiri woman marrying outside Kashmir would have lost her right to inheritance. Any Kashmiri woman marrying outside of Kashmir would have not, even her children would have not got the right to inheritance. How was that fair to Kashmiri women for 50% of Kashmir's population? Was that not a direct assault on your right to choose and your right to freedom and your basic right to liberty? Was that not against the basic principles of the fundamental rights of a citizen of Bharat?
How you insulted the constitution itself.
So who insulted the constitution and who didn't, ma'am? You please tell me. You've walked into your own trap, ma'am. You've walked into your own set of narratives and you've walked around it. You just said that the Indian constitution was a fantastic document. Then why did Sheikh Abdullah reject it? Why did you insist on a constitution that denied Muslim women their basic right to freedom and liberty? Why did you try to create a separate state within a nation state? Sardar RP Singh, no.
So allowing me to speak.
Please. You please tell me, ma'am, when 370 and that doctrine, it was not ratified.
Just tell me this, who has given us the 370? Who has given us? Who enacted this?
Jawaharlal Nehru decided it with along with Gopal Swami Iyengar drafted 370 and it was a closed door arrangement between him and Sheikh Abdullah. That was the only condition. And
he gave us this right.
Sir, see, I'll tell you, ma'am, I can only go back to what has already been chronicled by various authors. I cannot create something from the figment of my own imagination. The nation's home minister who integrated all of Bharat was kept outside of the discussions of Jammu and Kashmir by the Prime Minister of the country himself. This is also a matter of record. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was not involved in the discussions. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel along with Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar were against 370, were against having a separate constitution. They were insistent on Ek Desh, Ek Vidhan, Ek Samvidhan.
Casualty
of
misusing the constitution.
The biggest, yes.
And today every parliamentarian is admitting
so a historic wrong was corrected after 75 years, whereas 35A and also 370, both were supposed to be temporary provisions, ma'am. Both were supposed to be temporary provisions. Have you ever seen something which is temporary for 75 years? These are all questions you have to ask, ma'am. So who amended the constitution in the interest of Bharat, and who altered the constitution and it changed its very DNA for furthering their own political interests and for their vested interests is a question people have to ask, ma'am. Yeah, Sardar RP Singh, final word. Sardar RP Singh.
Well, when the amendment was made in the parliament, it was said as a temporary and transitional. I mean, it was never said it is permanent, and it was said that it's a matter of time, it will go and it has to go.
Sir, it was a president.
But
Okay.
When it was
As
Presidential
it
note,
stood-
presidential note
as
which
it
did
stood
not have
from-
parliamentary
am I-
sanction.
that
Yeah.
it is a matter of time. Nobody said
Presidential note which did not
yeah,
have
yeah.
parliamentary
Sorry,
sanction.
sorry.
Yeah.
it. You who is saying
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
It is
yeah,
you
yeah,
who is saying it.
yeah, yeah. So it was, but it was temporary and transitional one. But and also, man,
was it temporary?
this was
Do
the
you know
flag
why
of the
it was temporary?
Jammu
It was
Kashmir.
constitutional.
Why a state should have a separate flag?
It had dissolved.
Why a
Why
state should have a
respect
separate
flag?
flag? Let us know
This
that
is
also.
respect
Sir,
and-
in our country,
Ma'am, please.
the flag code allows
You
every
can't-
state to
you
have its
can't
own
have two
flag,
flags
but
in-
it cannot fly above the tricolor. It has to fly subservient or below the tricolor. That's also
Yes,
mandate. Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, who has certain
No, but
privileges
not
with
not
respect
even
to- by giving-
not
by
not
taking
even
the note of
at
the
par
Article
with the tricolor.
371.
Right. No, it is not at par.
371,
It's not at par. It's not at par. We're digressing, but the whole issue about the Samvidhan and this entire bogie, those who claim that सामने वाला संविधान बदल देगा, don't also color themselves in glory, ladies and gentlemen. 106 times our constitution has been amended, altered,
Can I make a
changed.
small point, Anand, please?
Altered, changed. Has it been, how many times has it been done in the larger interest of Bharat, and how many times it's been done to further personal or perhaps group political interests and vested interests? This is something that all of us need to understand, and where this entire silsila began. It's a longer conversation. For another day, I have to wind up for the moment. I thank all our guests. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we turn the spotlight towards yet another aspect. Sunday marked the anniversary of the Kanishk bombings. And on the streets of Canada, Canadians turned back and rejected this entire K propaganda. While they are K goons and terrorists are being hailed and eulogized in the House of Commons, among the common people of Canada, it's being rejected. We get you the proof, and we discuss this when we come back. Stay with us.